For the past few weeks, I've been watching different vlogs, posts, and people telling different stories about Black history, Black Lives Matter, George Floyd, Gallaudet, Kappa Gamma, Phi Kappa Zeta, African American, African born. So many different stories, and I have watched countless. I'm not sure where to start, but I have noticed many Black deaf people sharing their stories about racism. You may have noticed they often open with statements like, "This is painfully difficult, but I can't keep it in any longer. I have to share." So many of these people have kept their experiences to themselves and suffered with this pain for years, but have decided it is finally time to share their stories. Stories that span decades, from childhood experiences, school, work, and organizations. What saddens me the most is that America is the most diverse country by comparison. I say this in earnest, as I am very well traveled. Most countries are monocultural and homogeneous in race. Yet here in America, there is so much diversity. There are Latin, Black, white, deaf, hearing, diversity of gay, lesbian, straight, a whole rainbow of people here in America, and it's a beautiful place. While America has the most diversity, its injustice and inequity are glaring. I have to be careful with how I post, cautious in how I share my story. I have to tread lightly. I understand people who live in fear. I get it. Some of you may know me as a teacher, a newscaster, a friend, or a relative. My name is Candace Jones, and this is my name sign. People who share their stories are called out. They become targets of attacks, are ridiculed and canceled, but whatever their platform, they have the right to tell their story. We should not doubt them, tell them they are wrong, or attempt to silence them or their stories. This is their experience, their journey, and I get it. I imagine it's just like when hearing people try to tell deaf people what's best for them, outlining how to get educated, what language to use speech and lip reading, and the list goes on. No, this is our experience, our journey. Deaf people know what's best for them. It's the same with Black deaf people. Other people can't imagine or even begin to understand the lived Black deaf experience day in and day out. Just like hearing people cannot understand the deaf experience of being constantly oppressed. Hearing people will never fully understand what this experience is like. However, they can try to reach a point of empathy, awareness, and support. This applies to us Black deaf people and Black people in general, too. It's hard to have a thorough understanding of a life unless you live it daily. Without that, it is difficult to understand. With that in mind, I ask that you listen and that you reflect and discuss with your family, coworkers, or anyone that you admire. Engage with them to gain an understanding of where they are coming from, where any underlying anger comes from, and unmask it. Talk through it. This work is important, if for no other reason than helping the next generation flourish and succeed. We have to continually fight for our future generations. As a teacher, I have a heart and spirit for children. They are the future political leaders in government, schools, and organizations. They will be leading the way for us all. My heart has been crushed to see our deaf community that is historically small and tight-knit, now fractured into so many pieces. People railing on Gallaudet, Kappa Gamma, Phi Kappa Zeta. Deaf people are telling their stories and calling out others. This is not wrong. As I have said, these people use their platforms and have a right to do so. But I just keep thinking, does any of this help? Has any of this moved the needle to improve systemic issues? I am heartbroken at seeing the deaf community tear itself to shreds while ruining lives. The rhetoric causing jobs to be lost, reputations destroyed, all from within. This applies to the Black deaf community as well. Particular subgroups are also alienated: African Americans and African-born Black people. We split and divide until we are basically isolated, and we don't need that. We are fighting for the wrong reasons. We can cancel, call out, criticize, complain, and rant. That's fine. It is good for others to sit back and listen and learn what nightmares we have really been going through. Most others are fully unaware. They just don't know. It is imperative that we think on a more global scale and shift our focus to the actual target of systemic racism. I watched when Dr. Lauren Sims sat and spoke with Bobby Cordano, the president of Gallaudet. She spoke of a big apparatus, massive, ancient, and cunning. This machine has been churning for generations. She likened it to the system. It was powerful. If we as individuals continue in our squabbles, we run each other into the ground. This allows the machine to maintain its power. No matter who we cancel or how many band-aids we put on the mess, the machine continues churning and nothing really changes. Our focus needs to be retrained towards dismantling the machine of systemic racism and replacing it with a new, modern, well-functioning machine that will have a domino effect of changes cascading down from the very top. This will impact equity in all our lives: Black, deaf, and other people with disabilities. Let's start this group by keeping our eyes on the overarching aim, that is systemic racism. I have many stories I can share about racism, but today I will share one. Are you familiar with DWB? Driving while Black? You may have heard about the practice of police officers targeting Black people driving luxury vehicles, pulling them over and questioning them, asking if they own the car, where they work, and what they are doing. I have personal experiences that I'll share. I'm sure you've heard of running while Black, shopping while Black, driving while Black. It can happen in many ways. My experience in particular was Airbnb while Black. Allow me to make a long story short. A group of friends and family went on vacation to Wisconsin. I say it was about 4 or 5 families, a total of roughly 30 people. We took a road trip from Georgia to Wisconsin, where we stayed for a week. The house was massive and gorgeous, complete with a game room, an outdoor sitting area, and a fire pit on the patio. It was a nice space, with room for our families to come together. Sometime in the evening, as we were settling into the place, the police showed up to the house. I was in the restroom at the time, and my daughter was urgently sliding a note under the door to notify me that the police were here. I found it completely baffling. I went to the door while thinking to myself that I better keep my cool. All they'll see is that I'm Black. He doesn't know that I'm a school teacher, a nice person, and that I love people and love the Lord. Unfortunately, that's not what matters to an officer. They just see a Black person. My heart was racing as I approached. I saw 3 white male police officers in uniform wearing bulletproof vests, their hands at the ready, hovering over the guns holstered on each hip. I asked what was wrong. Even though there were hearing coda kids around, I didn't want them to have to interpret this type of situation, so I kept the kids out of it and communicated directly with the officers. The police said that a neighbor called and said we broke into the property. I immediately thought to myself, really? We broke in? Unbelievable. I told the police I had the confirmation on my phone as proof and showed it to them so they could see for themselves. They were skeptical of what I was showing them, as if I had falsified the documents. I asked if they would like to call the Airbnb owner. They said yes, so I dialed the number and handed them the phone. It was late in the evening, about 10 or 11 p.m., so the call went unanswered. The officers were clearly unconvinced. I was puzzled and wondered if it was because I was Black. I didn't know. They searched the place and indicated that the neighbor heard the alarm, thus the reason for their visit. I was confused, but I was fine with them looking around as I knew we had done nothing wrong. I thought it was strange because if there had been an alarm sounding, the hearing kids would have told us so we could deal with it, but they said nothing. They are not the type to be oblivious to those types of sounds. It was odd, but I knew the most important thing was to cooperate. I didn't want to escalate the situation where guns would be drawn or anything of the sort. I just wanted to keep the peace. One of the family members with us had kidney failure and used a dialysis machine, which had a very quiet alarm. It was impossible that the sound traveled from the middle of the house we rented, through the walls, across the property, and to the neighbors in the house next door, but still, the police used it as an excuse for the call from the neighbors. Even though there were no signs of a break-in or damage after they had looked around, they said the dialysis machine was so loud that must have been it. It turns out my white friend named Lara, I won't mention her last name, she knows who she is, was there and seeing this used her white privilege. She stepped in with attitude and told the officers off. Well, now you've looked around and found nothing. Are you trying to crash the party? It was perfect. She really knew how to play it. Now, if I had talked to the officers with that attitude, they would have taken me down to the floor and detained me just because I'm black. So instead, I played it cool while the officers grinned awkwardly, apologized, and said goodnight as they left. I just kept thinking about my white friend. And let me tell you something about white people. They are told they aren't a real ally if they don't post about Black Lives Matter. But if they do, it's just performative allyship. But we need to stop labeling. That person may not post Black Lives Matter on their social media platforms, but in real life, take action and stand up to protect us. That is a true ally. I'm so grateful to have Lara in my life. So grateful. My point is, I've seen so many people disagreeing, and it doesn't matter the color of their skin. White, black, Latinx, brilliant, or average people, those who are college educated and those without a degree. What it boils down to is the beliefs that we hold that divide us. Some people very much support one side and others do not, but it's that fracturing among us that causes real harm. We have to think about equality and justice. We are all human. Black Lives Matter, for instance, isn't just about police brutality. Yes, the protests started gaining ground after some of the police beatings were spotlighted, but it really began because of the long history of treatment of Black people, the awful experiences in school systems, decreased opportunity for home loans being approved for Black families, limited resources for the Black community, lack of job opportunities, a whole host of things that play into the larger picture of systemic racism. It is horrible, and it happens right here in America. My heart grieves for everyone. My hope is for all of us, Black, deaf people, Black people in general, to use our frustrations and the anger that we carry not against each other, but to take the pain, angst, and all of those big feelings and harness that energy. Channel it into dismantling systemic racism. Addressing that will be powerful. It will impact and inform change from the larger scale down to the individual. And we can do it. We must use our energy and intelligence. We have to seriously consider these questions. As we dismantle systemic racism, then implement change, how are we going to make these strides? Our aim is to dismantle systemic racism at its core, to make a better future for us and for our children. The question I leave with you today is, how will we do that?